Okay, so when you think of robots, you probably think of efficiency, right? Building cars, packing boxes, but what if their biggest impact wasn't economic, but political? That's what we're diving into today. How these advanced humanoid robots could totally upend the future of some of our most, let's say, controversial energy sources.
And that brings us to coal. I know. Why are we even still talking about it? It feels like something from a different century, especially with all the focus on climate and renewables. You'd think it would be ancient history by now. Well, turns out its story is far from over, and the reason why? Well, it's probably not what you think.
Right, so we're all familiar with the story on the left. Coal is a climate problem. We get it. But there's this whole other side to the story that we almost never talk about. And that's the idea that coal isn't just a climate problem, it's a political problem. And I mean a big one. For more than 100 years, it's been like a political powder keg, just waiting for a spark.
Okay, so let's dig into that. What is this secret political risk? What is it about coal that gets governments so antsy? And it's not what you'd guess. It's not about emissions, it's not about climate targets. It's about something much more primal, the potential for actual revolution.
And look, this isn't just some dusty old history lesson. Let's fast forward to the near future. Picture this. It's 2026. A conflict erupts in the Gulf, maybe US/Israeli strikes on Iran, and boom, the flow of liquefied natural gas just stops. We're talking about a fifth of the entire global supply gone, just like that. So what happens? All across Asia, nations that need energy to survive are forced to turn back to the one thing they can rely on: coal. Suddenly, this old fuel becomes an absolutely critical lifeline.
So to really get why this is such a big deal, we have to rewind a bit and look at the history here. Because this link between coal mining and, well, political chaos, it isn't a new thing at all. In fact, it's a pattern that just keeps repeating itself, over and over again.
Just take a look at this timeline. We can go all the way back to 1885. The famous novel Germinal wasn't just fiction. It was capturing a real phenomenon. French mining towns becoming hotbeds for radical politics. Jump forward a century to 1984, and you have Margaret Thatcher in the UK in an all-out war with the miners' unions. And it's still happening. Right now, China is shutting down thousands of its small mines. You've got different countries, different centuries, different political systems, but it's the exact same pattern.
And this quote about Thatcher really gets to the heart of it. The decision to close the pits wasn't an economic one. Not primarily anyway. When you look at the analysis, a lot of those mines were still perfectly profitable. But that wasn't the point. This was a strategic political move designed to crush the power of unions that had, get this, literally brought down a previous government. It was about power.
And you see the exact same logic playing out in a totally different system, like in China. They aren't just closing those dangerous mines for safety stats. No, it's a strategic move to head off the huge social unrest that always follows a big mining accident. They know that kind of public anger can be a real threat to the stability of the regime itself.
Okay, so we've established the pattern. But what's the actual trigger? What's the spark that turns a dangerous job into a political firestorm? Well, there's actually a specific French term for it.
It's called a coup de grisou. Now, literally, that just means a fire damp or methane explosion in a mine. But the term has this powerful double meaning. Politically, it's the catalytic event. It's that one horrific accident that takes all the quiet, simmering anger and frustration of the miners and focuses it like a laser beam into a massive political crisis, the kind that can seriously threaten a government. And it tends to follow a three-step model. First, you have the accident itself. This crystallizes everything. Suddenly, all those grievances about pay and safety have a single focus, and the blame points right at the owners, or even the state. Second, that activates the unions. They gain this immense moral high ground and can mobilize the workers. And the third step, if things get bad enough, the crisis stops being about the mine and starts becoming a direct threat to the government itself. So for something like 150 years, this has just been the reality of coal, a built-in political risk. But now there's a new technology that looks like it could break this entire cycle once and for all. Because when you boil it all down, what's the real problem? What's the source of this risk? It's the human miner, the person who has to go underground. It's their dangerous job, the solidarity they build with each other, their shared grievances. That's the recipe for political radicalization.
So, what if you could take the human out of that equation? What if you could mine coal without anyone ever setting foot underground? Well, that's exactly the solution being proposed.
We're talking advanced humanoid robots, fully autonomous systems that can handle the tough, dangerous work of mining all by themselves.
And think about what that does. It changes everything. If a robot is in that mine, a methane explosion, that coup de grisou, is no longer a human tragedy. It's just a piece of broken equipment, an industrial accident. There are no casualties, so there's no political catalyst. The very social conditions that lead to radicalism just evaporate. And when that happens, that political risk premium that's always been attached to coal could start to fall.
Okay, but this whole idea, using robots to solve a really deep human political problem, it doesn't just stop with coal. You can apply the exact same logic to another really controversial energy source, nuclear.
Now, the political risks for these two fuels are different, right? For coal, like we said, the risk is radical labor. But for nuclear, the problem is public perception. It's the widespread fear that it's just fundamentally unsafe.
And this is another place where robots could be a total game changer. Imagine sending robots into the most hazardous parts of a nuclear plant. They could handle reprocessing, do maintenance in areas with high radiation, manage waste, basically all the jobs that right now put humans at risk and, frankly, scare the public.
So the payoff, the robotics dividend, is huge. Yeah, it reduces the risk to workers, of course, but more importantly, it makes the whole operation communicably safer. You can go to the public and say, look, no human is touching the dangerous stuff. That is a powerful message. It's the kind of thing that could actually start to shift public opinion after the shadows of Chernobyl and Fukushima, and it works perfectly with the new small modular reactor designs that are coming online.
All right, so let's pull all these threads together. When you factor robots into this old political equation, you have to ask a pretty big question. What does this actually mean for our energy future?
Because what we're really looking at here is robotics as more than just a way to do things faster or cheaper. It's a brand new variable being introduced into a political problem that has been basically static for over 150 years. It's a high-tech solution to a very old, very human political problem.
And that leaves us with this final kind of mind-bending question. If robots can actually solve the fundamental political problems of both coal and nuclear, well, does that change the entire debate about the future of energy? It's a huge thought, and the answer could genuinely reshape global politics for the rest of the century.